The Nippon Anime and Film Cultural Association just released a survey of 323 people that are working inside of the anime industry. And what it found is the average that people in the industry are earning per hour is around 1,111 yen, which by my calculations is pretty close to about $7.30. And yeah, if we're looking at this, it's just $7. That seems dreadfully low, especially when you see that in the last few years, anime's been one of the fastest growing mediums of entertainment all around the world. Just in the last few years alone, the anime community has exploded in size, so much so that it's catched the eye of Hollywood, streaming services, and so on and so forth. So you would assume that they'd be paid more than $7. Now granted, when we see this in a worldwide scale, it's also gonna be the same as the federal minimum wage here in the United States. And when you factor in that we're seeing this in terms of dollars, $7 in the United States doesn't get you pretty much anything, but $7 in Japan can go quite a bit further. Granted, when we're still talking about this sum of money, it's definitely not gonna allow anyone to live comfortably. Someone earning 1,111 yen per hour is probably just gonna be living on bare necessities, especially when you're talking about the fact that they're probably living in Tokyo, one of the most expensive places to live in that entire country. This survey over here has people from all around the industry, so it's not just limited to animators. Now granted, animators were the largest portion of the people surveyed, being 191 of the people surveyed here. But then again, there's also the breakdown of about 44 people that are directors, 35 people that are producers, and so on and so forth. And this is something that goes pretty in depth with a lot of different things. It goes into how many hours people in this industry are expected to work, as well as pay gaps in gender and harassment inside of the workplace. There's quite a lot that it touches upon here. But some things that I say it doesn't really mention are how animators are also people that don't necessarily always work on an hourly basis. They're not paid by the hour. They're usually paid by how many things they've drawn. So an animator that pumps up more cells and more frames than anyone else is probably gonna get paid more. But that means that there's some people that aren't gonna be able to meet the necessary quota and they're gonna be paid less. Because here we also see that there's 14% of people that are paid around 600 and 800 yen, which is significantly lower than everyone else. But why does an industry like anime pay people so poorly? Well, that sparks kind of a different conversation. While this survey doesn't call out any one anime studio or company by name, we can see that this is probably a common trend in the entire industry. There are horror stories that you hear pretty much everywhere where people are being overworked into night shifts and overnight shifts just to get work done without being paid for any overtime at all. I don't even have to mention that anime studio that people have just been talking about time and time again when articles like this come out. I would say in a lot of interviews that you can find from animators that work at these anime companies for so long, they say that they started and they got into these positions because they were fans of the material that these companies were making. They are people that are devoted to the content and they want to make it as good as possible. So for them, it's a joy to be a part of the creation process. And that also means that if a company wants to come around and exploit them maybe a little bit, then they're probably more susceptible to it because they want to work for the company that they love, even if it might not be the most profitable for them. I mean, regardless of all the conditions and things that have gone on, over here down in the bottom, it says that around 70% of people still want to work in this industry no matter what. And then there's the other portions of I don't know and no, they would not want to join back in. But you also have to talk about the other aspects that might lead into something like this. So since this is a big picture about the entire anime industry, it's also going to be melding pretty much every single part of it together. While we see anime as a very profitable thing that's pretty popular right now, not every anime is going to be the most big blockbuster, the new kid on the block that just blows everyone away. Not everyone can be a Demon Slayer or a JJK. I would assume that for pretty much every one of those big blockbuster hits, there's an isekai, one of those generic ones that shows up in that big ocean of fantasy anime that comes out every season. And since those don't really pick up too much traction and they're treated as just like anime that they have to make to fill a quota, and then those animators are probably going to be treated worse and paid less. Anime right now is in a really saturated market and it's really hard for a company to try and make an anime as special, as good as it can be. All of these series are being pumped out as fast as they possibly can to make a profit. So they're kind of putting all of the cares in the world off to the side. But I doubt, much like everyone else, that this is going to be a viable solution for the anime industry in the years going forward. And in my opinion, I think it's strange just looking at anime because it's in its own little bubble over there. Here in the West, animation is seen as something a lot bigger, no matter what form it's in, whether it's like Avatar or whether it be something from like Pixar. I've always seen it as a more profitable art form, which is pretty much seeing it as on the same level as everything else in Hollywood. So to see anime that in some cases far surpasses anything that's made in the West over here, it's shocking to see this level of quality for the mistreatment of the animators. I mean, I gotta say, even though I love Invincible, I think it's a fantastic series, and I love season 2, the animation was the thing that was probably the most subpar of it all. But no matter what the difference in quality of animation is, the people that were working on Invincible were probably treated a lot better than the people that were treated on any standard normal anime. I mean, this shows you why there's still some anime companies out there that set up Patreon so that they can pay their workers right, or how there's actual organizations out there to make sure that there's animators that can earn a living. The rate at which anime has grown does not correlate with animators getting a better quality of life. But what do you guys think about this survey? Did it catch you off guard that animators were making this little? Or was it something that you've always expected and you think that some companies are a lot worse than others? Please, let me know down in the comments below. And as always, I was Bayfond, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.